Hello, everybody. Let's talk about the books that I read in April. The first book that I read was The House at Pooh Corner by A.A. Milne, which was the second and, sadly, I think the final original Winnie the Pooh novel. It definitely has, an ending. So I think this is it, but I'm not sure. I gave this 5 stars. It was just delightful. I read the first Winnie the Pooh book a few summers ago, and it was so adorable. It brought me so much joy. It made my heart so warm, and this was the same. It was so silly. It just made me laugh so much. Every single story in it was adorable. It was so silly. It made me so happy. My only criticism is that Tigger wasn't in it enough. But nobody knew who Tigger was before these books were written, so I love Tigger from, the TV show that I watched growing up and everything, so I was disappointed by the lack of Tigger in it, and that Tigger doesn't even sing his I'm the Only One song. Anyway, it was wonderful, it was fabulous. I'm so glad I picked these up. 5 stars, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Okay, and then I read Welcome to Nightvale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor, which I do have a full review on this, so I'm not going to talk much about it, and I will leave the review linked in the corner, or maybe at the end, I don't know, if you want to check it out. I did a lot of tabbing because it was hilarious. It was super, super, super weird, but it was fabulous. I loved it. I fell in love. It took me a little bit to fall in love with it, it took me a little bit to warm up to it, but when I did, oh my goodness, it was fabulous. So this is about a town that weird things happen in, except for it's not weird for any of the people who live there. And it follows 2 different people. It follows someone trying to find out why their coworker has randomly disappeared and nobody remembers this person. And it follows another person who is trying to figure out who this strange man is that came to her pawn shop and why he gave her a piece of paper with a city name on it. And these 2 characters end up working together. You find out a lot about their lives and their families. And while it's super weird and it doesn't make any sense, it still somehow makes sense. And there's a lot of really interesting backstory to the characters. And their lives are really, it's really good. It was weird, but it was fantastic. It was wonderful. So I gave this 5 stars. And then I read King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, which is, I can't talk about it. It's going to spoil things from both previous series, which is interesting because I feel like you don't need to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy in order to read the Six of Crows duology and vice versa. Six of Crows takes place after the final book in the Shadow and Bone series, but it follows completely different characters, and you don't need to read Shadow and Bone to really understand what's going on. There are a few mentions of things from Shadow and Bone in it, but very minor, just things in passing that wouldn't make you not understand the world or the story at all. And this, I'm going to say you need to read both series in order to read this. You need to read all of Shadow and Bone, and you need to read the Six of Crows duology in order to get what's going on in this. So I can't tell you what it's about because it will give things away from both series. But I can tell you who's in it, I guess. It features Nikolai, my book boyfriend, whom I love so very, very much. Zoya, who is such a strong character in this book. I loved her so much in this. And it also follows Nina. Now, the only thing I guess that I can say about this without giving anything away is that there's a storyline heavily involving Nikolai and Zoya, and then a storyline following Nina. And they have almost no connection whatsoever. And it almost felt like I was reading 2 separate books, I was just going back and forth between 2 books that just happened to take place in the same world. It wasn't a bad thing. I enjoyed both stories. I definitely enjoyed reading from both perspectives, but it was a little weird that they didn't have more to do with each other. I thought that was a little strange. And then also, I was bored with some of the political and army talk, which is to be expected. I'm always bored with that kind of stuff. But other than that, I loved most of it. I loved it. I loved Nikolai, is what I loved. Nikolai and Zoya. I loved Zoya in this as well. I can't really say anything else about it except that I gave this 4.5 stars. I felt weird about giving it 5 stars because I had criticisms of it, so I felt weird, and because there were some parts where I was kind of bored. But for the most part, it was lovely, and I'm excited to read the next one when it comes out in paperback so it can match. So, in a year. Maybe I'll have to get it from the library or something. Okay, and then I started reading The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and I read 50 pages, and I wasn't really feeling it. I'm going to try it at another time because I didn't dislike it at all. It was actually really funny, but I didn't care about the story, and I will probably just try it again at a later date, and if I try and read it again later and still don't like it, obviously it's not a book for me, but for now I feel like I'm just not in the mood for this story. But I thought I'd mention it. And then where I veered away from my TBR was I read Mythos by Jason Headley, who is Easy Cat on TikTok, and he's on BookTube as well. I've been following him since like the beginning, basically, and he's hilarious. And I've had this book for about a year, I think, or a little less than a year. As soon as I found out he had books, I wanted to buy one to support him, and so I finally picked it up. And I'm giving this probably 3.5 stars, but also 4 stars for younger readers. I feel like this is a little bit of a younger, like the writing style, I feel like would be something that younger readers would enjoy more so, and I can see myself enjoying this more than I did if I read this in grade 8 or grade 9. But it is really funny. Like, I tabbed parts that made me laugh out loud. A lot of it made me laugh out loud. Anyway, this book is about it's basically Jurassic Park, but with mythical creatures. It's a little bit different. But it's like, I feel like that's definitely the closest comparison. There's a theme park that revolves around mythical creatures, that has real live mythical creatures that they've somehow created that you can see. And then everything goes wrong, the power goes out, and all the mythical creatures are attacking, basically. So it's about a bunch of high school kids on a class trip that they won to go to this theme park. And obviously everything going wrong. And so the first 100 pages or so I thought were really, really strong. And the first like main action scene where everything first started going wrong, I thought were really well done. I was really into it. I read the first 90 pages in one sitting really, really easily. But then after that, when it got into the rest of the action, I wasn't really a huge fan. It was very like matter of fact, the way the action was written. It was just very, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And I thought that there was like a lot of really good dialogue and a lot of good internal monologue throughout the slower scenes. The action scenes I wasn't as big of a fan of. But I think if I read this when I was younger, I would have had no problem with the way the action was written, and I probably would have liked it a lot more. So I'm giving this, it's 3.5 stars as a 33-year-old, but 4 stars as like a 13 or 14-year-old. It was good. I just was a little disappointed in the second 2/3, because the first third of the book I thought was really strong. But yeah, so those are all the books that I read in April. And let me know what you read in April. And that's all for now. Bye. Have a good day.